Well, the 2026 Georgia Senate election is heating up, and incumbent Democrat Jon Ossoff is flexing his financial muscle with a massive fundraising haul in Q2 of 2025. Ossoff's campaign has a war chest that is a serious hurdle for Republicans aiming to flip this key Senate seat in 2026, a seat that has been a GOP stronghold for decades until the 2020 election. But despite this fundraising power, Ossoff faces real liabilities that could jeopardize his re-election bid in 2026. And today, we are going to be breaking down Ossoff's brand new fundraising numbers, his strengths, challenges, and exactly what could derail his campaign in this critical Senate election in 2026. Now, Jon Ossoff raised roughly $10.1 million in Q2 of 2025. He outpaced all Republican challengers combined in this election. He entered July with roughly $14.5 million cash on hand, close to $15 million in what is probably going to be one of the most vulnerable seats held by a Democrat in 2026 that is up for re-election. But this gives him a massive financial edge for ads, staff, infrastructure, voter outreach. Now, we know his Q1 haul of this year was roughly $11 million, which set a record for an off-year quarter fundraising, showing that he has consistent donor enthusiasm year in and year out. He claims that roughly a $250,000 individual donors donated over the last 6 months, with the average donation roughly $32. But a lot of people argue that his funds come from out-of-state liberal elites, not everyday Georgians, which I agree with that. I get more letters in the mail for anybody out of state in Minnesota to fundraise for them. It's Jon Ossoff. I get more marketing, donate to me, campaign flyers sent to my house from Jon Ossoff than any other candidate, Republican, Democrat, Independent, anywhere in the country. Anywhere. I mean, I'm on YouTube and you see it. There's Jon Ossoff YouTube videos that are consistently playing all of the time. Now, on top of this massive fundraising haul, he spent roughly about $5.5 million in Q2, including $3 million on ad buy, signaling that he is aggressive in his early campaigning to lock in voters. But yes, like you can see right here, so far he's raised $41 million for this election. He spent $30 million, $15 million cash on hand right now, cash on hand. Now we know the Georgia Senate races have been notoriously expensive recently. 2020's twin races cost almost $1 billion between the two. We know that was the year that Joe Biden won in the state of Georgia. Jon Ossoff run in the state along with Raphael Warnock. They both flipped these seats. Ossoff beat David Perdue, and Raphael Warnock beat out Kelly Loeffler in this election, which flipped the Senate from a Republican-held Senate to a Democrat-held Senate in 2020. And I expect this to be a massive, massive cash cow in 2026. There's going to be tens, if hundreds of millions of dollars poured into this race on the Republican and Democrat side. Now, I believe right now that Jon Ossoff is well positioned for re-election. As much as I don't like to admit that, I'll admit it. And incumbency is an advantage. As a sitting senator, Ossoff has name recognition and a track record to tout, from infrastructure to veteran wins, for healthcare laws, all these different things that he's going to run on. Whether I agree with them or not, he has things he can run on. And now, as far as bipartisan appeal goes, he ranked in the top third of senators for bipartisanship. Ossoff has often worked with Republicans on Georgia-specific issues like agriculture, like military bases. And historically, the party out of power gains in the midterm election. Now, with Donald Trump in the White House after his 2024 election victory, Ossoff could ride an anti-GOP sentiment among Democrats. Because we know midterm elections have nothing to do with the country's sentiment. It has more to do with who turns out and votes. It does. What electorate do you get to turn out and vote? Are you going to turn out something that's similar to a 2018 electorate? Or are you going to turn out something that's similar to a 2022 electorate? That's the big question. That's the big question that you have here. And Ossoff's campaign boasts the biggest and most relentless turnout effort in Georgia history, says they're going to leverage what happened in 2020 and 2022, take those successes and do it again in 2026. Now, to add on to this weakness for the Republicans in this election, there is no clear Republican frontrunner yet after Governor Brian Kemp opted to not run in Georgia in 2026. Now, it is good that Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene declined to run, which would be very bad if she got the nominee, and there were some polls showing that she would have got the nomination if she ran. 43%. What a joke. Are you serious? But still, the fact that there is no clear frontrunner is a big issue for Republicans. Now, early polls show that Jon Ossoff is leading most potential GOP challengers by roughly 5 to 10 percentage points, depending on what poll, when it was taken, different things that are associated with that poll. But like we said, most GOP challengers, I guess the two that are declared right now, simply Buddy Carter and John King, he's leading anywhere from 5 to 10 points. But Jon Ossoff is not going to just skate by without a scratch here. He's not. The reality is Donald Trump won the state of Georgia in 2024 with 51% of the vote to Kamala Harris's 49. There is still a GOP-leaning electorate that could hurt Ossoff in Georgia. Add to that, Ossoff has been very vocal about Donald Trump calling him corrupt and accusing him of poisoning democracy, which I think could risk alienating some swing voters who did back Donald Trump in 2024. I don't think that, we saw Democrats try and run on this threat to democracy in 2024. It did not win. But if you have a different electorate that turns out in 2026, it is something that could win. Add to that, Jon Ossoff voted against a massive arms sale to Israel, which grew criticism from many in Georgia's Jewish community, which is a key voting bloc in Georgia. Jon Ossoff will forever be tied to Biden's economic record, with many Georgians viewing it very skeptically due to inflation, rising cost. And we know Trump's economic policies will overshadow any wins that Ossoff has had. I think there is more economic woes from Biden that Ossoff is tied to, and there's a lot that Donald Trump and Republicans now have to run on in the one big beautiful bill. There is. I know a lot of people want to shit on it and say it's horrible, it's the worst thing ever, but it's not. It's not. It gave massive tax cuts. Or I should say made permanent massive tax cuts to the middle class and lower class. It did give some additional new tax breaks to people who work overtime, tipped employees, older people, Social Security, a deduction for Social Security, which is huge. That is huge. Now, if Republicans want to win, they need to rally behind a strong candidate. I think as of right now, Insurance Commissioner John King is that guy. I think he could unify the GOP, close the fundraising gap. I think fundraising, maybe not. Well, John King has not fundraised as well as you may want him to. He only has about $500,000 cash on hand right now. Buddy Carter is coming in with $4 million cash on hand. Look, I think Buddy Carter may be too MAGA for this state, for a purpley state like this. John King, though, he has appeal. He is much more of a Brian Kemp-esque Republican in the state. I think if you want to win, you need a more Brian Kemp-esque figure. You don't want, if you're on the political spectrum of Marjorie Taylor Greene to Brian Kemp in the Republican Party, we want to be as close to Brian Kemp as we possibly can when it comes to this nominee in Georgia in the 2026 Senate election versus Marjorie Taylor Greene. No doubt about that. We want to be much closer to someone like Brian Kemp. But we don't know who else could jump in this. Apparently, Mike Collins is going to jump in this race as well, which will make it a three-way race. Some other names that could be thrown out there: Tyler Harper, who's Georgia's agricultural commissioner, Derek Dooley, who's a former coach, a Tennessee Volunteers coach. I don't know why that name's kind of big. Rich McCormick, who's a U.S. representative from Georgia's 7th Congressional District. You also have some others: Doug Collins, Brian Jack, Brad Raffensperger. So it could be a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-way primary here, which could be bad for the Republican Party, especially if you nominate someone who's a lot more MAGA than someone like a Brian Kemp. Because Brian Kemp's decision not to run removes a proven vote getter who could have unified this party and challenges Jon Ossoff's cash advantage. Brian Kemp, when he decided he was not going to run, it was detrimental to the Republican Party. He is someone who can unify the MAGA base and the more establishment portion of the Republican Party. Because that's what you need to do if you want to win in Georgia. And candidates like Mike Collins, who is a self-described MAGA warrior may struggle to win over more moderates and more establishment figures or voters in a general election, while maybe Buddy Carter's broader appeal and John King's broader appeal may be better for them. It may be better for them. Buddy Carter right now, he's in the House right now. He has to appeal to a place right down here in Georgia where if you look on a presidential election map, there's two extremely big liberal cities right here. Very big liberal counties. That this is within his district that he has to appeal to at the end of the day. But I think John King, Buddy Carter, they would be good in a general election. I think John King would be the best. I think he would need a lot of money. The National Republican Senatorial Committee would need to throw a lot of money behind him if he wants to win, because I just don't think he's going to fundraise like Ossoff will. Because no Republican has been able to match Ossoff's financial machine yet. Like Jon Ossoff's campaign has only raised like $600,000 since he launched. And Republicans, if they want to win, they must consolidate early, focus on economic issues, exploit Jon Ossoff's left-leaning votes to sway voters in this purple state. And you need to get out there. You need to start running ad campaigns right now. You need, hook, line, and sinker, right now. Let's not wait until next summer. Let's get ahead of it right now. Now, on top of this, this is a toss-up state based on the Cook Political Report's ratings. Georgia is a toss-up state at the end of the day. You can see it right here. Battleground, toss-up, lean Democrat from race to the White House. But this is basically a toss-up race right now. And yes, did Jon Ossoff's millions give him, massive dominance? Absolutely. But Republicans can counter by being disciplined campaigners, highlighting his ties to national Democrats, to Joe Biden, to the failed policies of Joe Biden. Georgia's swing state status also means that turnout will be key. Ossoff relies on his urban base that must outvote the rural GOP strongholds if he wants to win, and vice versa for Republicans. They need to really blunt that blow from that urban base and really have massive turnout among the rural counties for the GOP. And with Republicans holding a slim edge in the Senate right now, flipping Ossoff's seat could cement GOP control in the Senate for decades. It could be decades that this could have implications for. Because right now it is a 53 to 47 seat majority for the Republican Party. But the big question, will Republicans find that candidate to match Jon Ossoff's energy? And can Ossoff balance his Trump attacks while he also tries to appeal to more moderates? But to wrap things up, folks, Jon Ossoff's massive Q2 fundraising haul of $10 million makes him a formidable incumbent in this election. His cash, his ground game, and incumbency are give him a massive shot at re-election. But liabilities like Georgia's lean red in historical elections, and his anti-Trump rhetoric could open the door for a GOP upset. Now, Republicans need a unified, well-funded candidate to capitalize on Jon Ossoff's weakness and turn this toss-up into a win. But folks, we are going to be here every step of the way to update you on what's going on in the 2026 Senate race in Georgia. This will be a massive one, the most vulnerable Democrat who's up for re-election. We will be here to give you updates as we go in this very pivotal race. But as always, folks, drop down below, hit that subscribe button, make sure you never miss another video from us again in the future. And folks, we will catch you next time.